Hello and welcome to the Comicspiracy episode 178 for the week of October 6th, 2014. My name is Ryan Higgins. Who's here with me this week?
Brock Sager, and that was not scary at all.
Bryce.
And Charlie.
Toby is here, but he decided falafels were more important than sticking around for the start of the podcast, so he will be here in a few minutes. He went to go get a falafel. We, however, do not have falafels, so I guess Toby actually wins.
I already ate.
What are we talking about this week, guys?
I don't know. That's your call.
Would you like me to tell you what we're talking about this week?
Please tell us what we're talking about.
How about, why don't we pick Toby's subject since he's actually the one that posted it here, and he's not here to actually talk about it. If you guys remember, over the course of the last month or two, Marvel Comics has said a few times that, hey, we love the Fantastic Four. And Bleeding Cool has said, hey, we heard Marvel's going to cancel the Fantastic Four because Fox owns rights to the movies, and we don't want to support a Fantastic Four not owned by Disney.
Okay, but the way that you're saying it makes them sound even more hypocritical than they probably are. They've been saying, yeah, we love Fantastic Four, but it's always been like, oh, yeah, of course we love Fantastic Four. It hasn't been like, them being hypocrites.
Well, yeah, I mean, and they said, as long as sales are good, there will always be a Fantastic Four comic. Well, apparently sales aren't very good because, according to a post on Bleeding Cool, which they ran, they were very happy about running this as well, that, Hatchet, which is one of the major book distributors, has a listing for all the upcoming Marvel trades, and one of them is Fantastic Four. The end is forever. F-O-U-R-E-V-E-R, forever.
The worst. They should have just put that number in.
Collecting Fantastic Four 642 to 644 and the triple size final issue of 645, meaning at some point very soon they're going to be renumbering the book back to its original numbering for some reason for an arc.
Why don't they go to 650?
Because I'm assuming the month after, an all-new Fantastic Four by some other random creators of probably other characters or something will be probably announced. Because I know all of you guys, especially Bryce, has read the most recent issue of Avengers.
Yep.
With Sue Storm as part of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yep.
Looking for Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So we're getting ready for the breakup of the family.
Well, it's already been happening in the Fantastic Four book itself.
Yeah. Now, this is like the ninth, cancellation of the Fantastic Four throughout its years, as it's been renumbered and relaunched all the time. So, Fantastic Four.
I think it's time to put it down. I mean, it was suggested in the article, but they said, they did this with Thor a while back. I think that it couldn't hurt that much sales-wise since it's not selling very well to do it with Fantastic Four, is just sort of put it down for a little while. And I actually would like it if they said, okay, look, Fantastic Four, we'll come back to you. Sort of like when Prince put out crappy records for forever, and he turned his name into a symbol, and he basically played the waiting game with the record company that finally released him, and then he took the Prince name back, and he got back into his thing. I think the Fantastic Four could do that. Drop Fantastic Four, let sort of appreciation build back up for it. Wait until this horrible movie comes out and completely flops. And Fox says, you know what? There's not even a comic book around this. Forget about it. We'll give it back to Marvel and or Disney, and Disney can pay them a lot for it, as they should, and then they can get back to making movies.
A real Fantastic Four movie.
I would love that. I don't actually see that happening. If anything is the trend nowadays, they'll try to make it into a big group event where it'll spin off directly into the Fearsome 5 movie, which comes out afterwards, which is gonna.
Well, there's no real official announcement or facts behind this, but all today, the thing I've seen probably most past in the later half of the afternoon was that Fox is apparently preparing for an X-Men live-action TV show because they need to keep that X-Men franchise alive. So,
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no details, so we don't know anything past that.
Doesn't the franchise stay alive if they just keep movies in production?
Right, but they're going to keep making a ton of X-Men stuff, so. Obviously, with we'll talk about S.H.I.E.L.D. and Arrow and all that stuff coming up here soon, but it makes sense. Live action,
like Marvel pumps out a ton of X books. Fox is going to put up a bunch of X movies or TV shows.
Yeah.
I'm just because I know at one point for like the animated Spider-Man stuff that was all being produced by Sony as well, and then it reverted back to Marvel at some point. So Marvel's producing their own, and I know they've utilized the X-Men characters in their various animated properties. So I'm a little surprised that the live-action television rights would be that easy to.
It's possible.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I thought that they just owned everything. I'm amazed that Fox has never been like
cartoons. I think are the one thing that Marvel kept because I don't think the cartoons are under because all the characters X-Men, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, they've all appeared under Disney XD. They've all appeared under Marvel's own cartoons. So I think the cartoons, for some reason, they were able to hold on to. But for the remainder...
Yeah, I'm just saying that it's kind of weird because I know at one point they didn't have all the cartoon rights.
Right, well, like MTV made that horrible Spider-Man cartoon for a while. And that was Sony, right? I mean, I think Sony produced that.
Pretty bad Fantastic Four one that was on like Cartoon Network for a while, too.
Yeah, those are awful.
Yeah.
Toby's back with falafels. Oh, wait, he's locked outside.
I don't know. I guess that's just my curiosity is I'm wondering where those rights actually fall, considering it seems like all the animated rights currently Marvel has now, but they didn't used to.
Right.
But I'm wondering how Fox has not ever said, there's a lot of money here, let's do a young X-Men, like, WB style TV show. Like,
who did Mutant X? Was that on
that sounds like...
Was that
Fox?
on CW.
Was that on CW?
I think that was one of their crappy mid-Saturday...
Yeah. I think that's the closest we'll get to an X-Men or an X-Men live action. And I mean, if this thing could take off, we could have something next year for it. I mean, there's no official announcement. It's just X-Men or Fox looking to make a live action X-Men TV show. That's all we know. But we actually have a question here from Joshua on Twitter. It says, can you guys talk about how badly Marvel has squandered all the goodwill on Fantastic Four generated by Hickman's revival of the franchise? And I totally agree. I mean, the Fantastic Four is the best it's been probably since Mark Waid's run in the early 2000s, and then prior to that, I can't even tell you when the last time FF was as good as under Hickman. And it's just, the Fraction run was so fucking bad. And this new stuff is okay, and I like Robinson.
Robinson's has been good. I've actually been reading it and enjoying it.
But it's okay.
I've missed the last couple.
You're not concerned, though? Yeah.
Like a lot of things, I have a feeling I will pick it back up towards the end of the book to see exactly how all this wraps up. But I think part of it is when they got into the original Sin stuff where they're like, oh, well, Johnny somehow messed up this.
Quick.
I just kind of went, yeah, whatever. I was not happy with the quote-unquote revelations that came out of that.
Yeah. Well, we got a few other things.
But the original Sin itself was good.
Yes. Amen.
We got a few other things to talk about here. All the sales charts come out, so you've seen a bunch of the sales on these books about where I think we expected to see them. However, as I know, Marvel more than likely have a bunch of cancellations coming up soon because there's a bunch of books either announced or kind of rumored to be coming out. A number of female-fronted books. I expect She-Hulk and Elektra and Black Widow and a few others probably won't survive the next 6 months.
But
what?
You just named a lot of good books.
I know I did, and the sales are terrible. That's really unfortunate, but they are. Elektra, I think is bad, but She-Hulk is awesome. Black Widow is really good. I mean, especially Phil Noto's art. But Marvel's been very proactive about getting female-fronted books recently. Storm sales are okay, but we'll see where that ends up long term.
Yeah.
I was actually really surprised how low the sales on Cyclops was. We actually do really well with that book.
Another really good book. See, this is why I should never look at sales charts.
It's really depressing.
They just make me angry.
I mean, it makes sense when New Warriors is like 165 or something. Like, I understand why this book is getting canceled. It's something really low.
That last issue with the mascot.
That was terrible.
Boom, you knew at that point that book was getting canceled if you didn't know it prior.
But while there's been a whole bunch of new female-fronted books from Marvel and DC, which we'll talk about later, there's going to be a couple more than likely replacing those ones. Announced earlier today, the unbeatable Squirrel Girl. Squirrel Girl is getting her own series.
If they cancel Black Widow and
For a Squirrel Girl
She
comic book.
Hulk to give us Squirrel Girl, I'm not happy.
It's by Ryan North and Erica Henderson, who I believe in the past they've done they've worked on like the Adventure Time comics and things like that. So and some
Well, they
indie
have
books.
to get something that looks like a raccoon.
Well-
and is for females.
Well, no, they just want to replicate the success DC's been having with Harley Quinn, right?
But Harley Quinn is a reaction to the success of Deadpool.
Right,
so
right, but-
this feels more like all ages Tumblr fodder to me. But man,
How
the cover
are the sales on Harley Quinn?
it's like a top 10 book. Both issues every month. It's fucking insane. It's one of their top selling titles. And for us, ironically enough, it's not. We do okay. I mean, it's a good mid-list seller for us, but it's beaten out by a lot of titles, which generally I did some math today. DC single issues and trade paperbacks new are 30% of our entire sales for the entire store. So we are a very DC heavy store. We sell about roughly
In the no fucking shit category.
well no yeah
I'm actually surprised it's only 30%.
but comics roughly 50%, trades roughly 15 to 20%. So you have 70% of the business is single issue, brand new single issue comics and trades. And DC is 30% total, so 50 some odd percent of that, right, is DC. So it's a huge, or 48 or 46% or something. I mean, DC is by far and away our best selling publisher. It's 50% more than Marvel. So if
Yeah, no shit with the owner that fuck Marvel, this new book looks stupid.
you want to come look at the cover of what is this? Something
Squirrel Girl?
Absolute Squirrel Girl, or was it Unbeatable Squirrel Girl #1? And tell me this cover doesn't look derpy as hell. It is. It's
Okay, you got me there.
it's a terrible cover. Now the Art Adams cover's badass, but the main cover's the worst. And this will be canceled after 6 issues, but it's cool to see them going towards something.
Now,
different.
I would laugh my ass off if it went longer than New Warriors.
I mean, it's possible if they keep it going. I mean, Marvel and DC can keep any of these books going as long as they want, but it's unlikely. It's unlikely anything that's not, top 10 book. Everything gets canned, especially these days.
I'm glad the Harley Quinn book's doing good at least because I like that book.
Well, they have the Squirrel Girl book, and then rumor is the screenwriter for the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, Nicole Perlman, is going to write a Gamora ongoing title. So
That's cool.
Yeah. So all these books that are probably going out are going to be more than likely replaced with these upcoming titles.
So She-Hulk is getting replaced by Squirrel Girl, and
Let's see. We have
Black Widow's
Star-Lord, we have Gamora, we have Rocket.
5
So,
Guardians 3000.
Guardians 3000.
yes, but I'm trying to think what other single characters. So they can still do Groot.
Groot and
they can do
Drax.
Drax.
Well, Groot is in Rocket, right?
Well, yeah.
And
They can do Drax.
I'm actually surprised Drax is would be the last one to get his own series. To me, he feels like the first one to get his own series, maybe next to Rocket. But
Yeah.
Vin Diesel's so busy doing voice work for Groot, he could also probably do the writing in the comic book because the script would be pretty minimalistic. I think. I could write that shit.
Yeah. At least one character's dialogue.
Oh, that's all I would sign up for. I would hire you guys to do the rest.
But I'll be curious what these books kind of, if we're going to see that big wave of cancellation come January, February, March. I expect them. So.
Since we're talking female leads, did everyone read Thor #1?
Yes.
Oh, we can talk about the stuff if you want now. Yeah, I haven't read Gotham Academy or Thor #1. I didn't read any of this week's books. But
I just said yes.
Yeah.
That means everybody should have read
Everybody
it.
should have read it. Come on,
Feel free.
guys.
Talk.
Homework.
I heard mostly good things about both. So
Well, first, Charlie,
Thor-
for me, I want to ask first. So, for me, it felt like it didn't need a renumbering, especially off of Aaron's
Well, it
Mighty Thor.
didn't
or
need
God
a
of Thunder.
renumbering, and it was one of those things where most of the book is about the male Thor.
Yeah. She doesn't even show up till like the last actual panel.
Yeah. So it's not really a good sampling of how is this book going to do with a new lead. It was more of we need to work out the old lead.
well, despite what Marvel is kind of saying, Jason Aaron, from the couple of the interviews I read, it sounds like he's saying like this is just a story arc. Like this is
it's literally issue 25 sets up
Yeah.
Right.
what happens in Original Sin and what happened or what issue 25 set up. This is the next story
Yeah.
arc. And to me, it didn't even need a renumbering. Like, if it was issue 26, I would have been perfectly happy with it.
It definitely could have been, and it's really hard sometimes to judge based on my reaction to something because of the expectations I brought into it versus how the book actually was. This was one of those cases where I enjoyed what I read, but it felt like that should have been the last issue before the renumbering.
Right.
Not the first issue of the renumbering.
Yeah. Well, because there was a number of reviews from very pro-female comic review sites and bloggers and stuff that were very upset with the issue because it was like, oh, this is supposed to be like this character's big reveal, and she's not even in it. Yeah. And to me, it seems weird. Like Cap 25, from flipping through, it feels like the break, and he's fully Falcon is fully Cap by the end of the issue. This feels like you said this should have been issue 26, and the next issue is issue 1.
Yeah.
I think they could have benefited from taking a hand from the Cap book, where they established the new character, or at least that the other character is on their way out, and then renumber it. I don't know. I assume Captain America is going to renumber.
Yeah, next month. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. If it had been like an annual or Ryan's favorite .1 issues, like if it had just been some sort of like transition book, and
they tried to use the last issue as a general transition, as they're kind of flashing back, talking about Thor's history, and they even show a panel or two. Like she had as much panel time in the previous finale as she did in this issue 1.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that
to me, I mean, it didn't even need the renumbering. I mean, is Jason Aaron still on the title? He's still telling the Thor books. It's just, for me, it felt a little bit rushed because, and this is going to give stuff away, is from Jason Aaron's run previous, the future Thor was missing, had like a destroyer
the fucked up
arm.
arm. Yeah.
Well, issue 1 explains why his arm is no longer there. So, I mean, to me, it felt a little rushed.
Well, and he has. I'm going to blank on the name of the axe. He's got the axe, right?
Yarborn,
right? Which he's had in Uncanny Avengers as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I guess my general perspective on this, I don't really mind the going back to issue 1. I do agree this should have been 26. A large part of that has to do with the fact that, similar to sort of the Superior Spider-Man, if you do a strong enough shift where the focus is now on a new character, I don't mind renumbering it.
Yeah.
But that wasn't this issue.
No, this was finishing up Aaron's God of Thunder, and because I mean, it was a perfect. It was perfect at where Thor is going at that point to this new introduction, and especially with the last line in the book, like the last line would have been perfect jumping point to a new number 1. But yeah, they fucked that shit up.
Who read Gotham Academy?
I did.
What'd you guys think? Toby, you just finished it off, huh? No? I thought you read it. Toby's shaking his head. Apparently he's now mute.
So,
what'd you guys think of that?
I like the art a lot. It's definitely one of those things where I like the unique voice that the book has. I like the fact that it's almost like it just happens to be set in Gotham. It's not very Gotham heavy, which is kind of nice. I'll definitely give it another issue or two. It didn't really put me off at all. It just,
Oh god, that ad makes me want to gouge my fucking eyes out.
The Batgirl ad.
The Batgirl ad. Just so you know, that's officially on a read list.
Now, mind you, the other weird thing is I'm not sure who I would suggest the book to.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really have this person would like this. Like,
I think the difficult thing about that is also we've only had one issue.
Yeah, and it may pick up in a way where I feel comfortable suggesting it.
Yeah,
but
it definitely seems like it's aimed at, tween teen girls.
Which is fine, but from issue 1, I wouldn't necessarily.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily.
This is exactly what they're looking for. So, yeah, I don't.
Yeah, DC. I talked about this last week at that retailer meeting. They said that they were trying out different titles, different ideas to see what sticks. I hope it works because sales were pretty slow for us week 1. But again, if sales are not to the traditional comic audience. Hopefully, other people come in long term for this book. Fortunately, we just won't.
Like the art, just because it made me feel like I was reading a Disney DC book.
Well, I will tell you this: that book gets canned the second the art goes away, because I think the art is such a huge part of that book.
Yeah.
That style is really good. It's called Carl Kerschel, who's done stuff before, and man, I don't remember his art looking anything like this. So this must be a real new style for him. I don't know what to do with that is.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk some. I can very briefly talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because I did see the first 2 episodes, and I won't go too into it because we talked about a lot about it last week. But yeah, damn, where was this show last season? Like maybe we saw a glimpse of it.
For Captain America.
I guess we saw a glimpse of it, but Toby, you were talking the other week. It's like, hey, it's a show about adults. Kind of being cool.
It's about time.
Yeah. Most of the new characters are pretty cool. I really like Lucy Lawless. I'm sad that I don't know if she's really dead or not. I have no idea what their plans are long term. But
spoilers.
Well,
Bryce, you're supposed to have seen it already.
No, I haven't seen it.
You're supposed to hate Gotham and like.
I missed last season, first season, as of the Gravitron episode. I was
2?
like, yeah, no, I'm into this. I'm rooting for it. I'm gonna keep up with it, and just haven't kept up with it.
No,
my wife watches The Voice instead, so I'm watching that now.
The Blacklist is on after that.
There is
that good?
Yeah.
Yeah, Blacklist is awesome.
I like Blacklist.
It's losing me.
That's fine. It can lose you. I'll keep watching it. It's James
All about
Spader
person
being
of
awesome.
interest.
Shield.
Ultron?
Okay, fine. It's all about Ultron being awesome.
I'm sorry. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, with S.H.I.E.L.D., the problem, I think, in the first season, Toby covered this pretty well, is it's about a bunch of kids. Coulson shouldn't be in the field. There's a lot of the stuff that they do kind of fix in this. The kids are either fucked up or not acting like kids anymore. Skye seems perfectly reasonable in these first 2 episodes. It still's got some of that Whedon-esque goofy humor, but it's nothing offensive. Like this show, it took Arrow 8 or 9 episodes, I think. It took S.H.I.E.L.D. a good chunk of it the first season, but it's fine. It's not as good as Arrow, but it's coming into its own.
At this point, season 1 doesn't even exist
I
anymore.
find it very weird when people say it took
Yeah.
Arrow 8 or 9 episodes, because I never felt that way.
Me neither. I'm with Charlie on that one. To me, it was
good from episode 1, but it really clicked a little bit into the season. There was a few episodes there where I was
in Arrow. It was them meshing together the stuff that was on the island and the stuff that was in present day. Like, it didn't sync up very well until about.
I know. I thought.
Speaking of which, we should talk about the new Green Arrow comic.
Yeah, it's done by the guys who do Arrow. Yeah, I haven't read the first issue yet, but with
wait, no, it's not a first issue 35.
Yeah,
let's get it right. We didn't fucking renumber
the first issue of the new creative team.
The new creative team's first issue.
Yes.
Yeah, but with S.H.I.E.L.D., it really felt like they had to get out of the plot that they wrote themselves into in season 1. And again, it definitely did get better in the back half. But this feels like this could have been the start of the show.
My thing about the first season of S.H.I.E.L.D. just had to do with the fact that I'm sure they already had all their plans for Captain America Winter Soldier done.
Right.
Meaning they already knew where they were going to be taking S.H.I.E.L.D.
You could have done it in this fashion of the second season in the first season to begin with.
All right.
All the issues I had in the first season were completely fixed basically in this first 2 episodes on the second season.
Wait, so if I'm at the Gravitron episode of last season, should I finish season 1?
If you ask Charlie, you should skip to the Captain America episodes. If you ask me, I say just go and start the second season right now.
Well,
Skip to the Captain America episode.
You saw Winter Soldier,
If
right?
I ask Higgins, he says, go watch Arrow.
Go rewatch Winter Soldier and pick up the episode after Winter Soldier and go from there.
Episode before.
Right, because the episode before leads into
what's
it.
that episode number?
It's like
I could figure it out.
16 or something.
guys know.
Hail
It's in the
Hydra.
teens. I'm at number 3, so do I want to waste 13 hours of my
No.
Personally, I think this new season is just like way
if I go
above.
back, that's how I'll probably do it. I'll probably pick up the episode before.
Well, when does it come out on Netflix? That's what I want to know.
It may already be on.
I might.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
might be
it
already.
might
on.
already
Yeah.
All
I
right.
don't know for sure though.
Or soon.
Honey, I'm coming home to watch S.H.I.E.L.D.
But the main reason
Oh, sorry.
I mentioned S.H.I.E.L.D., and we'll talk about the season as it goes on, maybe every couple episodes, especially, and the opening of season 2 with Agent Carter. That was the best part of the show so far. That was great.
Yeah.
So if that's a tone for her show,
Yeah.
all on board. Very
can't wait
excited
for the
that.
mid-season
And I like
for
it.
that.
Just those are all still the same characters, right?
Yeah.
They're all the same actors.
Yeah.
Yep.
From the Homely Commandos.
Yep.
So that's super
Only
awesome.
problem is my boy though is in Sons of Anarchy. So if they're doing it at the same time, I don't know where he's going to go.
This is the last season of Sons
Yeah.
of Anarchy,
Is
right?
he?
This is the last season.
When
of
but
Sons.
aren't they already starting?
They already
Yeah, they
started
probably already
airing it,
filmed
so
it.
they probably
Ah.
filmed everything.
Dude, by the
Yeah.
way, this is not comics related, but if you guys are not watching Sons of Anarchy, you should definitely go watch Sons of Anarchy.
I'm
because
really
it's-
behind.
You guys could
I'm
be
one
Santa
season
Anarchy
behind.
bros.
We could.
Yeah.
I'm one season behind. So I
Oh
have
my
it on-
God.
I have it on.
I'm
on
multiple
DVD.
seasons behind. Just waiting for me on Netflix.
Anyway, let's get back to comics. But Sons of Anarchy is really, really good. So go watch it.
So the reason I brought up S.H.I.E.L.D. was because
We need to watch Sons of Anarchy. That's why I brought up Shield.
one of the people involved with the show of S.H.I.E.L.D., Fran Kranz, I believe. I'm not sure what they do for the show, but they are involved in the show somehow. I suppose I could look it up with a very easy IMDb search, but I'm too lazy to do that. Replied on Twitter, Mockingbird, who we know is coming. It's actually
It's Wonder Woman.
Adrian Palicki, Wonder Woman, playing the role of Mockingbird on S.H.I.E.L.D., so she's going to be an ongoing character. And then Robbie Baldwin.
Oh no!
My boy Speedball is up, and then the tweet deleted, of course. My boy Speedball is going to be on motherfucking S.H.I.E.L.D. Okay, S.H.I.E.L.D., you had to. They were like, there's a podcast called The Comic Conspiracy. There's a comic store. This guy really doesn't like this first season. We're going to try to fix it up for him, but how could we put that cherry on the top?
Now you know what's going to happen.
Let's put Speedball. Now, there's two possibilities here. We could get an awesome character to do a bunch of stuff with, or they could do like the Alias thing from the Alias comic, where he's a total idiot and spaz and gets bounced around a bunch, and they make a bunch of fun of him, and you never see him again. So it's a very good chance that Speedball will be like in one episode and be a total joke, and we'll never see him again. However,
That's because we're going to get Night Trash and Amarita and Silhouette to be there the whole time.
Oh, for the New Warriors spin-off show?
Yeah.
so Speedball gets his powers.
He dies.
6 seasons in the movie.
He gets his powers by being in a laboratory accident. So with all the stuff that's going on with what's his face with the crazy guy now,
Oh, yeah.
Fitz, that I wonder if maybe
You know, I
he's-
never know which one is which.
Yeah, I
know
always
him as
forget.
Fitz and
Fitz is the
Simmons.
guy.
Yeah.
Simmons is the girl.
if all the stuff going on with him. Maybe he's like a low-level Shield agent that gets
He accidentally creates Speedball.
on the show, like on the
Now-
ship.
Now this is what I'm going to. Have they said who's cast in this role?
No,
So it's probably going to be some ethnic. They're going to change his ethnicity.
Or it'll
Some-
just be Fitz himself.
Yeah, or
some
just Fitz.
ethnic.
And then I know you like
I
that
can
so much.
see-
ethnic. You are
I
killing
can see
me.
Fitz being Speedball, actually.
But what
Not
happens
too far off.
is he becomes this, and then the next season he turns into Penance.
Oh.
No,
Well, that could be
you're
the
just,
that
you're
could be
just
the
trying to
problem.
Josh and Ryan right now.
If it is penance, that's the problem. So. But I am.
Did you watch the clip, by the way, of this week's episode? The Simmons, I guess, the woman.
Yeah.
It doesn't it feel very, very Lost-like with the way she starts training, and then she walks into the laboratory. It's so Lost.
Hold
and
on.
then they reveal the Hydra symbol. It's like
Yeah. Hold on. I actually totally did know
Spoiler,
this
Bryce.
because I did.
spoil
I don't watch previews.
I did look this up. Frank Kranz is actually a Joss Whedon guy who was in Cabin in the Woods and some other stuff. So, and Much Ado About Nothing and a few other things. So, and he was in Dollhouse. So, maybe he's going to be Robbie Baldwin. He's young enough.
They couldn't cast
He's
a Baldwin to play
kind
him?
of blondish. So,
Isn't there enough of those
Scientist guy
fuckers?
from Dollhouse, and then the pot smoking guy
Oh,
from Cabin in the Woods.
Maybe.
hate that dude from Dollhouse. Oh God, I hope
I didn't
it's
watch
not him.
Dollhouse. So I don't know.
Oh,
But
he would be as annoying as the actual Speedball is.
yeah. So there you go. All right.
Now the real question is there going to be a cat in this lab?
Oh, please, Niles. I need my cat. I need my Speedball
Is it
cat.
sad that I know this?
Okay, speaking of pet Avengers, can we talk about
hey.
how good Inhuman is?
How what?
How I say that with a
we're
large
still on
amount of
TV
my
stuff.
tongue-in-cheek /
We're still on
asterisk.
TV stuff.
Okay, we'll talk about Inhuman later. Inhuman is defying expectations as being not bad.
Good. post what's his face?
Joe Mad.
Yeah, Joe Mad art.
Joe Mad. He was there for 2 issues.
2.5. Yeah,
3?
yeah.
No, it was 2. They got somebody who looked like him for the third.
I mean,
one.
they're doing a good job. They got a whole New Warriors, young X-Men thing going on. It's I don't think it'll last, but it's a good groundwork for.
I'm behind.
For a fake X-Men?
It's not bad
For a fake X-Men.
I've been reading it. It's not bad.
Fex-Men? No, that's not going to work.
F-Men?
F-Men. Oh, S-Men. How about the S-Men actually becoming relevant and Remender's creations actually coming to life? I think that we'll see probably more with the upcoming nonsense with the was it Red Dawn with Red Skull becomes the Red Apocalypse?
Axis?
Yeah, the story arc. But
Yeah.
isn't the first act called like Red Dawn or something?
I don't. Yes, it's all Axis. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all Axis, but there's the first arc is called something like Red Dawn.
Yeah.
In any event, if you're planning to read Access, I would suggest at least picking up the last issue of Uncanny
Well,
Avengers.
we actually have
Definitely.
a question here. Let me find it.
And
It's
I
here
know
somewhere.
that Omar does not agree that Magneto is not good. I am not enjoying Magneto. I hate Hernandez and Fernandez, both being. Are
they the new Fitzsimmons?
I forget which one is the one that I like. I like one of them, and the other one is like John Romita Jr. And while I don't think Colin Bunn's story,
Jesus, sidetrack.
okay.
Well, hold on.
No, well, I'll get to that later. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Anyway, Magneto is not good. I like one of the artists. The story's good, but it's not good enough, and the art is not good enough. But they have a cross in with the pre-Axis stuff, and it sort of explains where things are going. It's building up to be a good story. Like Remender's sort of playing by the rules, which is not his MO usually. But I'm liking it mostly because I'm a Marvel apologist. But go ahead.
Matt on Twitter says, "What's the deal with Axis? If not reading Uncanny Avengers, does it matter to the rest of the Marvel universe?"
Listen, Matt.
Yeah, and you need to read Uncanny Avengers. I would think you have to read almost the entire series on Uncanny Avengers.
It's very simple. When
this Red Onslaught stuff goes back to the very first arc.
yes,
But it goes back to the first arc, and then you can sort of jump ahead to the current stuff. You don't necessarily have to have read everything with the Apocalypse Twins.
Yeah.
At least it
but
doesn't
it's so
seem
much
that
more
way.
color.
But if the rumors are true,
Can I read just that recap page at the front of the fucking book?
probably.
Yeah, probably.
But if the rumors are true, Axis is going to have a huge effect on the X-Men titles. So if you like the X-Men books, you probably want to read Axis.
Look, Matt. When Bendis was doing
he's here.
every single, I'm looking at Charlie, calling him Matt. When Bendis was doing every single big Marvel crossover, you had to be reading Avengers and New Avengers because that's where they were all stemming out of. When Hickman did Infinity, you had to be reading, even more so, Avengers and New Avengers because that's where it was stemming out of. Yes, and so it's not surprising that when Remender is doing Axis, that you have to be reading his monthly books or semi-monthly books. You have to be reading. Uncanny Avengers. And by the way, you should probably be reading Captain America, even though everybody else but me at this table hates it.
I jump back on for 25, and I'll keep reading it post the relaunch for a bit. But man, I tried that first arc, and I
don't know. It depends on where they go with it. It's sort of like, I agree with you in general. You have to at least read the stuff by the same writer. Just as a general rule, they'll pull in everything and get the content they need to into their
Johns
other
did
books.
it the same thing in Green Lantern back in the day.
The only qualifier I would put in there is most of the time, if they're going to make significant changes to a character as part of it, you then need to read their books as well. As you got into with like Spider-Man during Civil War and like Iron Man during Dark Reign, like sometimes just major character changes spill over into those books as well.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But all I would say is, Matt, simple or not simple, but sort of standard procedure for any time you're going to be prepping for a story arc done by an artist that's doing a monthly, you probably want to pick up their monthly.
And you can always ask the question again as the series is going on, and we'll let you know which books to read.
Well, especially with Axis, Original Sin came out of nothing. It just was its own book.
Which was, by the way, that was so awesome of Jason Aaron to do that for the fans. Because, it was so refreshing to, by the way, I'm loving Wolverine and the X-Men. I'm loving Thor, God of Thunder. And Original Sin, I don't have to be caught up on anything else.
Right. No, and you don't need to read anything else attached to it.
Yeah, that was really cool of him.
Yes.
So, but yeah, with something like this, it directly comes out of the events of Uncanny Avengers, so you probably want to read at least the most recent arc, or at least the last couple issues.
Are we
to continue the John's comparison?
Oh, Jesus.
The way they started Uncanny Avengers was very similar to the way John's tends to, like when he took over Aquaman, he did this year on Aquaman and gave you a quick preview of where his arc's going to be going. They did the same thing when they started Uncanny Avengers. At the end of the first arc, they kind of showed and this is where we'll be taking it, and now we finally have gotten to that event that they promised at the end of the first arc.
Yeah, dude, he's been advertising and tweeting about the Red Onslaught for I feel like years. And it's finally
Uncanny Avengers. Yeah, it was 2 years ago. Well, a little over 2 years ago. So no, a little under 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, he was sort of telegraphing, without giving us too much detail, but telegraphing this whole Red Onslaught thing, which I don't know. I'm sure there's a DC equivalent that I just haven't read, but I like that when these stories.
The first Lantern. The first Lantern was teased for 4 years.
Yeah, I love it when story arcs are that much premeditated, so you can sort of seed the universe, seed the storyline with that stuff. I was thinking today about, it's too bad. You know how good was it? X-Men 350 that revealed Gambit's secret.
Yeah.
Uncanny X-Men. I was thinking, it is a shame that DC and Marvel don't give more sort of I don't know if it's characters with secrets that I'm looking for, or some big secret. They seed more secrets into their stories so that they can reap the harvest 10 years, 15 years, 20 years later. Because it's such a great, Origin was a huge bestseller, and they just had to, plant the whole, we don't know about his origin at the beginning of it. You had to, plant these seeds in advance, and why aren't they planting more seeds?
Well, stuff like Gambit or Origin those are retcons. Those are, the creators later came back to answer questions posed years, sometimes decades earlier. Right. You just don't have that, you don't have creators on books long enough to pose these sort of questions. It worked with X-Men because Claremont wrote that book for 20 years. Yeah. So he did this himself and got lost in his own plots and just didn't answer them.
Whatever, I'll take it.
Look, the closest you have is Bendis on Ultimate Spider-Man, probably.
Sure.
That's probably the closest you have right now.
But also Red Hood or Jason Todd and Bucky dying years and years before, and you think that that's going to be forever, but then to come back and make him Winter Soldier decades later, that's so good, and that's such a huge seller now because it happened so long ago, and it didn't need to be the same. It didn't need to be the same creative team. It was by the way, we planted the seed.
They're all dead.
Huh?
They're all dead. Everyone that killed Bucky's all dead now, or most of them.
No.
And that new Winter Soldier book is not good.
No, but he's an amazing character.
He's an amazing character.
And what I'm saying is that whether it's a secret being revealed or somebody coming back from that, it doesn't matter. You need to plant these seeds so early on to reap them later.
But there's no new characters really to do that with, so it's hard. I mean, they can, but
what do you mean new characters? I'm saying they should be doing this all along, so that years.
Well, they have been, and they've run out of characters to do this with. That's the problem.
This is kind of my problem with modern comics, and don't get me wrong, I do think modern comics are great.
No,
but
I got you wrong. You think they're all bad.
But the reality is, when I was growing up reading comics, it was a huge deal when Magneto was coming back. It was a huge deal when they'd get back to using Apocalypse and that kind of stuff. And they don't really shelve characters anymore for more than a couple years.
Phoenix being one of the rare exceptions.
Yeah. And I kind of feel
and Joker.
Between the change in creative teams sometimes and the fact that there was an example of this that really kind of struck a nerve with me when I remember talking to Ryan about this back during the Morrison X-Men days, and how he invented the character Zorn, did the big reveal that Zorn was Magneto, and then Marvel was immediately coming back going, we need to put out more Magneto and we need to put out more Zorn.
Dude, that was Chuck Austin, right?
Yeah, it was the worst.
That was so bad.
Zorn is Magneto. It's not another character. Stop.
And I kind of feel like that's where we've gotten to, where you get these really good characters with this huge epic feel to them. Good example again is Hush. Hush was a great story arc. It did huge things for the Bat book, and then they rushed out the Return of Hush by a different creative team, which
I actually kind of
Are
like
you
that
bad
book,
about the
though.
Paul Dini?
Yeah, Paul Dini wasn't bad though.
no,
I actually
no,
like that
but
Eternal Hush book.
But that came out of
That
that
wasn't-
came out like-
Disagreeing with Charlie.
That wasn't Paul Dini originally. That was
He didn't do Return Hush? Oh, no, he was in, like, Gotham Knights, wasn't he? He was
Yeah,
in that really
something like
shitty
that.
book. Yeah, I remember that.
and I like the way they started that arc with the Return of Hush, but the second they brought him back, I'm like, why on earth are you bringing back Hush less than a year later?
Print money.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it just...
But it didn't. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Plant seeds and come back years later, and
It-
everybody
it's-
will appreciate it more.
It's sort of like the idea of the impact to get people excited has kind of gotten
Yeah,
lost.
it should have been like a summer blockbuster sequel, like
Right.
3-4
Yeah.
years later.
All right.
And
Well,
that way you bring people back to the book because you brought back
Yes.
this character
Yes.
that everybody
or
thought
20
was
or 40
gone.
years later. That's
Yes.
what I'm saying.
Speaking of bringing characters back and sometimes less than a year later, Batman Endgame Part 1 comes out this Wednesday, which is the
The
big...
fake Endgame.
the fake story, the fake
fake game?
covers, everything that we've heard
Or
before
F-Men.
that we don't know what's happening, and I'm going to assume that most people assume it's the Joker because why not? Because it's the Joker. Something's happening, so more than likely it's about the Joker.
So I have a question that only the captain of the DC Apologist fan club can answer.
Okay, I'll take it on.
So when they raised the price on Batman to the Marvel prices until Marvel raises up to $5 a book,
Yeah.
and they don't include a digital code, how are they going to justify that?
Well, we'll actually talk about this here in a
Watch it,
second
Ryan,
because I
just with a
believe
straight face going, it's just better.
Well, so what happened with DC was they had all their books that were $3.99 had backup features, and then the backup feature they did. No, they were extra pages.
And they were really good.
I'm not saying they were good or bad, but they had extra
Justice League
pages.
was.
And the Justice League ones I thought were good. The Shazam backup stuff I thought was cool.
The All-Star Western was good.
Yeah, All-Star Western was very good.
I
And
haven't read that. I read the backups.
however, it
There's Dustin
appears
Lee and Superman.
Yeah, however, it appears most of those backups have gone away, and the prices just kind of remain $3.99. But they all have the high gloss cover stock.
Love
And
that.
then
And
there's
that's-
people like me who buy the digital combos for $5.
Yeah, or $4.99. Well, Batman, which is going to be extra pages, it's going to be 30 pages an issue of story, so it's up a whole 50% off its normal page count.
I thought they were 22 pages. They're 20 pages?
20 pages, yeah. Which actually, when you guys start talking here, I'll count some of these Batman pages, because I want to say the page count on Batman's, I mean, they have been higher. There was like a $7.99 issue, which was straight up like 48 pages. It was a huge issue. They had the 100-page issue of Detective, so they have larger pages. Marvel's countered with a bunch of $5 comics recently with higher page count.
Except for Death of Wolverine.
But, well, it's just not higher story page count. It's higher page count, but not story page count. But
They have
Batman...
nice glossy covers and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Were you talking about DC's fabulous covers? What about Death of Wolverine's fabulous covers?
It's pretty fancy.
Hashtag 90s.
Well, look at
Hashtag the
DC's
Canada variant.
$3.99, Futures End lenticular covers, which I don't know if you caught the episode last week, but they announced to the people at the retailer meeting that they are not doing those anymore.
Yeah, thank fucking
I think they're
God.
neat, but they did them, and they were like, this
You know
is
when
cool,
they were
and
neat
now we're done.
for Villains Month. And by the way, they were not even that neat for Villains Month.
They were neat for
this
Villains
was
Month.
just ridiculous.
Wow. Anyway, Batman for the Endgame arc, which I don't believe the first part is. I don't think 35 is, but I think all the rest are $4.99 an issue.
So $5.99 for me.
Right. Scott Snyder went to DC and said that no.
No. He didn't say no. Report it accurately, Ryan.
Regarding the price point on Batman, Greg Capullo and I have heard about it yesterday with you, meaning he was unaware of it, and quickly made a case to DC about reducing it, and I can genuinely, happily, say that DC are taking it very seriously, which we appreciate. Stay tuned.
So there was no in there. It was, wow, this doesn't seem like a good idea. And they said, Scott, we are taking
He's
this very
telling
seriously.
DC no. Like, no, don't. DC... I think DC's going to bend over backwards for Scott Snyder because Batman rules the charts every month. It's crazy. If he wants that book at $3.99, I
He's
think
basically the Nolan at WB.
I think they're coming out at $3.99, but
Which will be $4.99 for
which will
me.
be $4.99 for you. But we'll see.
Anyway, so as Ryan's asking us to save some time, look.
I'm counting the page for 34.
Hold on. It takes one executive at DC to say, Batman sells fucking Batman. Scott Snyder doesn't sell Batman. And look.
I think they've learned that's not the case if you compare it to the other Batman books.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of them.
I half agree. I mean, Batman's so good, and it's because of Snyder, but that doesn't mean that every book that Snyder does is great, and Batman is going to... no matter who's ever writing Batman, it's going to outsell any Marvel book.
No.
I
think... Unless it's Simon Spurrier. Boom!
So Batman is actually 22 pages. There's two extra pages, plus it has the foil, the fancy
gloss,
cover count.
Love that.
So the $3.99 books are probably all 22 pages instead of 20, and then with a higher gloss. I'm not saying it's worth it. I'm just telling you the reasoning. Just like every Marvel book is now $3.99, with the sole exception of like Miss Marvel, maybe.
And She-Hulk.
Maybe She-Hulk's the only one.
No, it's both, but
is it both?
At least one of them is going to be canceled.
Yeah. So Marvel's rationale is the free digital code. I think Marvel has a high. I mean, I don't want to see every DC book go to $3.99.
Finish the sentence?
No, Marvel has the better value at that point because it's a free copy of digital code. They do. I'm not saying they don't.
But we don't get numbers on the redemptions.
But, well, that doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter.
But DC... Well, DC's publicly stated... Well, I don't know how publicly. They told us at the retailer meeting early on that only about 20% of the DC combo packs get redeemed.
I redeem them.
They are sold as basically a variant cover. I know I have a whole shitload of them by Jeff Johns that are not redeemed. So,
wait, what is this combo? What the fuck are you talking about?
So the way DC does their with the digital code, it costs $1 more, but you can buy it with a digital code to cash in to get the
and they all have
as well.
They're bagged and they have a variant cover. So I think a lot of them are sold as variant covers.
Most of the variant covers
it's just a cover.
say a digital.
Well, no, it's a color swap. It's a palette swap on the front.
Yeah, it's normally a different like tone or something.
Yeah.
Any event, I own a lot of these and have cashed in the codes.
Yeah.
And I would love it if they just started to include those codes in the books. That would be awesome.
So hopefully, well, first of all, I will not spoil Endgame number part 1 on Twitter tomorrow. Unless everyone else does, then maybe I'll be like, yep, I can confirm. However, we'll talk about it Wednesday. I'll probably post about it all day Wednesday, because if it's as crazy as we've been led to believe, I will make a mention of it. Also, crazy has been the last few weeks for DC with the end of Superman Doom number 2, with the return of the multiverse, with Brainiac, and now Dan Didio has posted the covers for Future's End number 23, 24, and 25, which is a nice little 3-part collection that shows various...
God, I'm having Trinity flashbacks.
Various Brainiacs.
Yeah. Why do they do 3 covers, Marvel or DC? Why do they do 3 covers? For those of us that bind... Hey, Dan. For those of us that bind our comic books, we need 2 or 4. 3 doesn't help us. 3 means we need to split up how we do our binding, okay? Thank you.
Or give out free posters.
So... Either way, with the red skies, it's like looks like the bleed. It looks like the multiverse. It's showing all different types of what's going on with with Brainiac. Brainiac has introduced Blood Moon, which is this thing DC has been teasing for a while. So that Brainiac has like the Blood Moon. I don't know whether it's like in the middle of the bleed or in the middle of the multiverse or whatever. But Brainiac basically now has access to the multiverse. So all this shit leading up to April, those
way to go, Superman.
Those are those early rumors, and I'm gonna stick with it.
Your numbers on Future's End have bumped up
a little bit, yeah. Our numbers on Future's End did well, and Stefano on Twitter, friend Stefano, actually asked about September sales, and while the Future's End issues do not sell nearly as well as the Villains Month issues, every issue had a sales bump. We did sell maybe 5 to 10% extra across the board on every title, and then we sold a few 2D covers. Does the event work? Absolutely. Did it work as much as Villains Month? No. Did I order too much? Maybe a little bit. But long term, we'll see if some sell. But it's not just that. I mean, September was an awesome month. The start of Death of Wolverine was really, really strong. Way stronger than I could have helped. They were. And
$250,000?
Huh?
$250,000.
Yeah. Real big on Death of Wolverine number 1. Thor number 1. Well, no, Thor this week is weird because it's on the 1st. So Well, we received the books in September. I mean, if you count Cap 25 and Thor and a few other books, there's big numbers on
This is a huge
Thor.
week last
Thor
week.
number 1 is, I mean, with by far and away our bestseller book last week. Huge sales on Thor number 1, including variants, with a shitload of variants. So, yeah, very, very good month for books, September.
But anyway, Stefano, it's kind of like Higgins' rant about Marvel's, always renumbering and going to Marvel.now and Marvel.1.now and all new Marvel.1.now. DC just had their newest lenticular cover month that they had last year, and it was even lamer than Villains Month, and it shockingly sold. What did it sell percentage-wise in terms of, if you were to say Villains Month did X, this bullshit did like X halves?
Well, okay. You have 4 of them. You have New 52 number 1s.
No, I want to know lenticular covers. Because,
hold on. New 52 number 1, as we all know, sold totally crazy, right? Those were insane.
Obviously.
The number 0s sold as well, if not less, than the current issues of most of those books. Those 0s, for us at least, bombed. Sales charts did it very well. Stores ordered more. I ordered more. However, the month or two around the release of those, the number 0s, which is the first anniversary event, we did not do very well with. We got stuck with a decent amount of copies. Yeah. Villains Month, a magnitude over the cover, or over the standard issues, twice as much maybe in some cases. Hold on, I would say 50 to 100% over normal sales. It was huge. These are probably 5 to 10% over normal sales.
Okay, all I'm saying is that the 0 numbers, that's no value add over the number 1. Number 1, it's original. issue number 0. It's like, okay, well, this is boring as shit. The Villains Month, it's like, okay, this is really clever. Like 3D covers,
They sold really well.
I haven't seen this before. As stupid as it is, like 52 Villains covers, like that's insanity. But okay, this is new and this is fresh.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, this year it's like, oh wow.
It did better than the 0 issues, but not as good as the other 2.
Right, because we've seen this before, and god damn, have you seen
big
that Dick Grayson cover? It's like the most boring piece of shit ever.
He becomes Red Star.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to troll Toby back into the podcast. He's not.
He loses his arm, become Red Star. How could he not love that?
Yeah, boring.
The big difference between the event this year and the event for the Villains Month just had to do with the fact that I'm having fun being distracted by Ryan.
I gave it to Bryce.
I've never seen Ryan hand a book to someone and pointing at it with the smiling face.
The absolute worst cover of all of them was the Futures End Batman Superman cover, which apparently implies it took Batman or Superman 5 years to throw a car at Batman.
But
it's the worst cover.
This is hilarious.
It is the worst cover of all of them.
If you look at some of the if you look at some of the other colors, they have the Wolverine claw look. Like they open their mouth on like half of the covers, like It's hilarious.
Okay, so back to what I was talking about, the difference between these two. To me, all it had to do with you did not have the speculation going on with these books that you had. Because what happened with the Villains Month is they made a big deal about how people were not going to be getting their entire orders. They weren't going to. And what that caused is a lot of speculators to go around going, hey, look, I can flip these books and make a profit. And that always...
Had we received 100% of our orders on the Villains Month, I guarantee you they would not have sold nearly as well as they did. So it's funny, it was better that we got allocated because I wouldn't have sold probably as much if they were all available. It's like a weird... We sold more than we did because they were so limited. It was a weird effect.
Right, happy accident. All I'm saying is that lenticular covers V2, not as good as V1.
Totally agree.
But
sales went up, but not very much.
The funny thing for me was the Villains Month covers. I mean, the cover I could give a rat's ass about. The Villains stories overall, okay. I actually enjoyed a lot more of the Future's End stories.
Well, that's the weirdest thing about the Future's End books to me is a lot of the... So, giving Marvel props again because they kind of did this first. So Marvel did the...
Bryce gets so happy every time it happens.
No, that's not a happy face. That's a look. You don't need to fucking pander to me. Pander to me. I don't care if you're giving Marvel props or not. I just want to hear what you had to say.
So Marvel had a series of books called The End. That that they had like the Wolverine the end. They were going to do a Spider-Man the end that I don't think ever came
Fantastic
out.
Four, too.
They had the Fantastic Four the end. They had an X-Men the end. They had a Punisher the end. It was this whole idea of we're going to bring together these quintessential teams from these various books to write what they would consider their eventual end to the title. Basically,
it's
that character's final story or whatnot. Yeah. And in a lot of ways, a lot of the Future's End, quote unquote, 5 years later books felt that way. It felt like they delivered the big finale that they've been building up to over these past couple of years with the various books. And that threw me for a loop.
Yeah.
Because
Batwoman was jarring.
Yeah, Batwoman had what would be considered a big finale. Swamp Thing had what would have been considered a big finale.
That Swamp Thing issue was amazing.
Oh, yeah. And that was just...
God, Batwoman's cover is so bad, though.
Yeah, the cover was bad. But the story was good.
Open mouth covers.
And again, it's just one of those things where I think...
Omar would love it.
Because of the way that event was solicited, my natural assumption is if you didn't care about anything going on in Future's End, you wouldn't care about these. But I literally had subscribers come in like, yeah, I'm not going to get any of them. I'm like, no, you need to get that Swamp Thing. If you've been reading Swamp Thing, you need to get that Swamp Thing. Like, I felt like I had to justify people buying these books because it wasn't solicited properly.
Well, the thing I saw the most of was, did they just restart all the DC books again? I will guarantee you this. The average customer has no idea what's coming the next month, let alone the events, let alone the crossovers, let alone the foil covers, let alone why.
The backlog of reading is like 6 months.
It's not that. No, it's people come in every week and they just buy whatever's on the shelf and they buy it. They don't go on Newsarama or Comic Resources or Bleed Cool or listen to this podcast or talk to anyone about it. They just buy whatever's on the shelf. Like I've had so many people that were like, oh, did DC start their books over again? And I'm like, no, it's 5 years later. It's part of Future's End, blah, blah, blah. But then I get that with annuals. I get that with Death of Wolverine. People walked in and they're like, what happened to the main Wolverine book? Like, is this a miniseries? What is this? People were asking about Thor #1. Like, most people don't know at the end of the day.
Look, motherfucker, it says #2 of 4. It's a miniseries.
But a lot of people don't know what's coming up.
In which Wolverine's gonna die.
But real quick,
he's taking a long time to die.
He's taking so long, it's killing me.
Since we're early on in these episodes, definitely think it's worth a check up on Gotham episode 2 because this week we also have Flash and Arrow and Walking Dead coming back. It begins. So
when's Constantine coming?
24th.
End of October. Yeah.
Look, I would love to hear you guys. I guess I kind of heard it last week. I've not seen Gotham. I've just heard reviews, and they have not been kind. I would love to hear your guys.
My reviews have been very kind.
Yeah. Well, Charlie,
like professional reviews or
hate on a pile of shit. So that's you, just a gentleman.
I can see professional reviews or our reviews, like fanboy reviews,
or like fanboy reviews. Because I'm reading, so I get all my whatever it's called, pop culture stuff from Entertainment Weekly. So I would love to hear what. And it's not like they're any more sophisticated than you. So
I think the second episode had the same problems, but the same good parts as the first one. It feels. I think they need to narrow down a time. It still feels like this kind of weird time that doesn't actually exist. Where you have
they do that on purpose.
Well, you have modern day.
Came and said it.
Oh, I know.
Well, you have a modern day SUV,
but you have modern day.
It doesn't feel like the modern day.
You have modern day SUV with like dude bro college guys and the Penguin, and he's all like, it's on
like a cell phone.
It's a bizarre. It's like a weird. I think they'll eventually figure it out and it'll work for me. It's just not quite there yet. I think we're in those early episodes where both these episodes are written by the same guy as well, and he's the main showrunner on the show. So I think you have a certain feel. Not that I don't want him doing it. I'm sure he's fine. But I want to see other voices in this world. I want to see kind of how this episode goes. I am now 100% convinced that we are getting the full Penguin story season 1. Every season is going to be a villain. Fish is out by the end of season 1. I mean, they're going to keep her around with full season, kill her off season 1. Penguin takes over. So, I mean, I pretty clearly think that's where they're going with this.
How much Bruce Wayne was in this episode, number 2?
He listened to some metal. That was kind of funny. Very little, though. I mean, he's only a couple minutes.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
almost like the cock tease in every episode. Go, ooh,
But I
Bruce!
want them to start slowly push him out, bring him out occasionally.
Did they
Yeah.
beat you over the head with Edward Nygma again?
Like one scene.
Nygma,
No, one
Nygma
scene.
was great again.
It's one scene. I mean, again, I think we'll get a little bit of Nygma. Season 2 will probably be Nygma.
Okay, so
that's my feeling.
How many times did Selena Kyle crouch in episode 2? 4?
I mean, a couple times because she's actually, I would say, she's the main character in the second episode.
She
The
is,
second
because it's
episode's
the title.
called
It's the
Selena
title.
Kyle.
Yeah,
I
there's
don't know what the name of it was.
there's like these two.
See, I like that. I think that's what Gotham really needs is some really deranged criminals in every episode.
And those, if I'm not mistaken, those characters actually they probably were from the books as well, but I think they're very loosely based on an animated series episode as well.
Yeah, they reminded me of the
Yeah.
Well,
Is there
Farmer-
Mr. Pig
what's his
coming
name?
in this show?
Professor Pig?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe.
I thought so.
It'd be awesome.
from the quote unquote trailer they showed. They
I
sure
didn't
made
watch
it
it.
seem like he
Okay,
is.
nice. 'Cause-
Ryan's now sold.
This is
Oh, yeah.
this is what's killing me about Gotham. And don't get me wrong, I love Gotham, but the fact that I kind of feel like we're going to see 15 to 20 members of Batman's Rogues Gallery in the first season is
But are they? See, here's the thing: Penguin won't become Penguin. Like, and even when Batman was Batman, the modern continuity, Penguin should have already been rising through the ranks
and
at that point.
I don't mind having Penguin in it. I don't mind having Riddler in it. I don't mind having Catwoman in it. I just kind of feel like when you go to the length of making sure that all these characters appear all the time, it kind of it
Well, I mean, we got Ivy in the first episode.
well.
Right?
Yes, we got Ivy in the first episode, along with Catwoman, along with Riddler,
yeah,
along
so-
with Penguin, and any of these characters, I kind of feel is fine being in Gotham. I just don't feel like they all need to be focal points.
I
all
don't think
the
they're.
time.
I don't think they're going to be. I think what we get in the first couple episodes is they tease a few of them. They tease a few of them, but season 1
I'm
clearly feels like Penguin.
waiting for them to pull some
back
of them
out.
back.
I think-
that's what I'm waiting for. When they can basically turn this
pulled Ivy
into
back.
a very good procedural show set in Gotham, I'm
And I
completely on board.
I think that's what we're going to get. I think we're going to get more Gordon. I think we're going to get less Bruce Wayne. Maybe more or less Selena
You're
Kyle.
crazy if you think you're getting less Bruce Wayne.
No, I think so.
No,
well,
we won't,
yeah,
we
well,
won't get,
I think
we
you're
won't
wrong.
Get too much.
I think
Well,
he's going to go away.
well, here's the question:
I
do we
hope
do
he
time
leaves.
jumps? Is he 10 in this season or 12 in this season? Whatever. Is next season
He's 14.
he's
15.
14 or 16, and
No,
he's
that's way too
and
aggressive
then
for Fox.
You don't think so?
I guarantee you not.
And then season 3,
Write it down.
He's gone. And season
No.
4, he's back and he's like 22, but he's not Batman yet.
No,
You don't
dude.
think? I mean, if the show is kind of
Hey,
maybe,
Ryan,
seen
talk
Network
about a
TV?
Marvel show. Let's see what Bryce says.
well, if the show is kind of meandering, if maybe the ratings aren't right, you don't think they're going to try to drag Batman in at some point?
No, I'm saying that while I would love to, and I'm not saying it's not going to succeed because of it. It could succeed in spite of it. I'm just saying that I don't see them. I think that that's what all the fans would love, which almost categorically means that they will not do that for this network show.
And this is going to sound really weird, but I'm going to bring it up anyways. So
I don't want to hear about your sex life.
my boss from my normal job tried to sit down and watch Gotham with one of her kids, not realizing what.
She does realize it's on at like 8 o'clock, right?
Yeah, but 8 o'clock is not outside of the realm
There's
of.
also people that buy Batman Year One at Target for kids too.
This is
This is in the kids section.
and
Yeah.
that's sort of 8 o'clock is not outside of
I know.
something I could potentially watch with my kids zone.
Is it an adult
if
show?
they work Batman
yeah, it's
into
it's
it,
pretty fucked up already.
yeah, if they work Batman into it,
awesome.
they would get into all kinds of problems
Well-
with sort of like the. It's the same way you kind of got into with like Doctor Who and Torchwood. Like Torchwood characters can appear on Doctor Who, but it can't go the other way because you can't
Yeah.
bring a character. At least they could probably get away with it with a later time slot, being able to go, this is a adult show with Batman in it. I don't think they can get away with it at 8 o'clock.
What I want is I want Gordon, I want the cops, I want a
want
couple
Gotham Central?
villains. Right. I want a couple villains, but I don't want I think they run into the problem of having too many D-list villains way too soon if they're going to use name villains in every episode. I want long-running plots with Fish Mooney and Penguin playing chess with each other, but not. I mean, figuratively. As,
I know what you mean.
as he's attempting,
Fish Mooney.
and I hate that. I hate it's the worst name.
The worst.
It's the worst name. Attempting, his takeover of her, him going up against Falcone. There's great.
Falcone's pretty badass.
He is awesome.
They did him pretty good.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
So he's the big bad, right? He is the long game bad. She is the season 1 villain.
Yeah.
Penguin is the rising star in this villain in this season, and Gordon and Bullock are like the guys kind of intermix. So you get like Selena Kyle in this episode is fine, but I don't need to see her every episode. You definitely don't need Bruce Wayne in every episode. Alfred, you could pull in when you need to, but again, I don't need these guys in every episode. I think you get a lot of them up front, but then I think they pull back. That's what I want. Now, they could do time jumps. They could bring in Batman. They could do all this other stuff. I don't necessarily want that. I'm just theorizing what could they do. I want police procedural. Yeah, I want Central. Crispus Allen and Renee Montoya in more episodes than Bruce Wayne.
Well, and focus on characters like Zaz is supposed to be coming in, right?
Did you see this episode or next week?
I don't know.
He's soon.
Such a roster of potential D-list villains that, quote unquote, were around before Batman that they could do, but like you were talking about on the podcast a week or two ago. Like, why do they name dropping all these A-list villains so soon?
Yeah, they casted what's his face, Two-Face now.
Yeah.
No, what?
Yeah,
Yeah, they did.
They cast
not.
Is he a kid?
Yeah, like a teenager,
that's fine.
like 15.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could be a couple years older than Bruce. I don't care. That's fine.
At least that's
in
what I remember.
pre-law.
Well, he's in high school, right?
High school.
AP honors,
Well,
man.
And see, you know who they should have of anyone? Thomas Elliott.
Yeah.
He should be in the show
but
because he's
he's kinda
actually
known.
Bruce's friend as a kid.
Yeah, but that's also going back to your whole time jump thing.
Yeah.
That's like way more pre-thought would have had to go into this as a network show than
Plus, he's not a very known villain.
But
Go out to the street and ask anybody.
Fish
to name
Mooney's
5.
not a character
That's
at
made
all.
up, yeah.
I know.
It doesn't matter if they're known. The beauty of
Guardians
like
of the
Gotham,
Galaxy, right? Doesn't matter if they're known or not.
The beauty of basically having a show like Gotham on the air is the intention isn't to say, oh, all the comic book fans are going to love this because we all know people who read comic books would get the show canceled.
Yeah,
That's
all
that
100,000 of us.
Yeah, would get the show canceled.
Well-
but hopefully you drum up enough interest from Gotham that you do get some of the other way, the people who are loving Gotham that want to read stories with these characters. That's really what you want out of the show as a comic shop owner, because you can't.
Well, okay,
That's very insightful.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that's a great call.
So this past episode, they name drop the Dollmaker. They don't show the Dollmaker. Nothing happens with the Dollmaker, but the main villains in the thing are kidnapping homeless children for the Dollmaker.
Right.
So it's like you're not focusing on Dollmaker. You're focusing on Dollmaker's, henchmen, so to speak, and that works because it's like we don't necessarily need to see the Dollmaker.
And that's kind of what as much as I want to see Penguin's journey, and I want to see Riddler's journey, and I want to see Selena Kyle's journey, and I want to see all these journeys, I don't think they need to be the focal point of most episodes. No. I think, yes, I look forward to the episode with Zaz in it, but I think you need enough unknowns in the show, potentially even creating a new character for the Rogues Gallery because of it in the long run.
There could be always a new Harley.
Fish Mooney.
So Gotham.
If Fish Mooney was a better character, everybody to pull in Arrow, since we're talking about this stuff.
On this episode.
Arrow did a very good job introducing Diggle and introducing Felicity Smoke. Mm-hmm. Diggle was already brought into the comics, and spoilers for the latest issue of Green Arrow, now they have officially brought Felicity Smoke into
Yeah, but this is exactly my point with Harley. That came from the cartoons, and now it's officially, you can't imagine DC Universe without Harley at this point.
And as far as I'm concerned, you need to kind of have the freedom within these different mediums to play around and go, this character really works, this character doesn't. You don't need every character that gets created for television to appear in comics and vice versa even. But I do feel like you have to be given sort of the freedom to try and find stuff that works.
No, that's a great call.
It's good. It's good. You should try it. Gotham's good.
When it's on Netflix, I might watch it. I have to watch S.H.I.E.L.D. first.
So, Gotham season 1 and season 2, episode 1 and episode 2, high
I
ratings.
was about to say, are you saying that it already got renewed?
Yeah, man, did you meet the doctor?
Episode
How'd
2,
you do that one?
Episode 2 dropped roughly 11 to 13%. The 3-day plus has been really good, and so has the on demand. It's been the number 1 on demand show. So
I know I watch it on Xfinity Online.
Yeah, so very, very good numbers for Gotham episode 2. Before we wrap up, Bryce and I think Charlie want to talk a little bit about Omar's pick last week. And Bryce, you have to announce your pick.
Yes, sir.
If you got it.
I will after my BWS.
Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X story, the Wolverine story from Marvel Comics Presents, was Omar's pick, and I think they wanted to say a few things about it.
So, I mean, you guys covered it a lot, and I talk a lot, so I won't say too much.
Wait, you talk a lot?
Already said, but I do have to say that this was not brought up, and I thought it was fascinating when I read about it. Was that Barry Windsor Smith invented adamantium?
Did you really?
In an Avengers issue in the 70s, Barry Windsor Smith is credited with inventing adamantium.
This wasn't in the trades we read. It was in your weird comic bind.
No. This was separate. I was just reading about it on the internet.
Okay.
But
Wikipedia told him so.
Yeah, okay.
You should have saved that
I think it
for
was
a
Wikipedia.
Bryce's trivia section.
I should.
You should have saved that one.
Newman. Okay. Anyway, I thought that was really interesting. Look, I mean, you guys already said it. The art is great. I think that I love it when artists do the story and the art. And in this case, he also did. I don't know if he did it all or if it was just a couple of them. The lettering for it. Like, I think it's so cool when an artist can do, all aspects of it. I think that I'm the only one that likes Chris Pacello at this table, but
I have original art of his on my wall.
Really?
Yes.
I'm going to come
2-page
steal your wall.
I like some of his stuff. It just depends.
It's from
Okay.
It's
Because
from
it's
a book
easier
that
to steal
Ryan
the wall
hates.
than the art from the wall.
That's what I was going for, Charlie. Thank you. So anyway, I really liked it, and I really liked the fact that they gave him the ability to. Actually, I was surprised that they didn't make it, and I guess maybe they just weren't as in mind of how commercially successful it could have been as a miniseries. Selling half issues of Marvel Comics Presents, I can't imagine was more lucrative for them
Wasn't
than
it more
having
like quarter issues? Because there's only 4 stories in those issues at a time, or is it 3?
Well, it was the first 8 pages, so it was like a third.
Yeah, like a third. Yeah.
A third times 12. Okay, so yeah, whatever. It was 8 pages or 8 issues. So anyway, I really liked it. Everything that needs to be said has been said. I really liked his art. I didn't really realize what I really like about this book club. Let me talk about book club at a macro level. Book club has been great, even though I've read.
Did
I
we
read
just
this
go to
story-
the macro level?
So I read this story when I was. What was I, 13 when this came out? I forget how old I was, but I read it then or.
The year's right there in front of you.
He's just asking. He's not actually asking.
Right there.
Okay, so I was 10 when it came out. So I probably read it when it. Wait.
Do you even know how old you are right now?
Yeah, I am, but you don't know what month this came out in. Anyway, so I was probably about 12 or 13 when I first read it. Anyway, it was really good. But what I really like about I didn't really, even though you know about an artist or a writer, you don't really know about him until you're sort of forced to sit down and say wow, that was actually really good, and yeah, I appreciate that on a different level than I did before, which book club has done for me on a bunch of different books, and this was definitely one of them where I knew of it and I knew how good it was with a shrug of my shoulders, it's good, of course, but I didn't really take the time to appreciate, and so I read his Wikipedia page and didn't realize that he'd been doing sort of one-offs at Marvel for the whole decade before, if not, I think actually 2 decades before, even though he only did 1 or 2 issues a year. just crazy stuff. I didn't know that this was his whole image and conception of Wolverine's origin story. I thought that he was sort of given the story and he had, got to do a little bit of what he could with it, but that it was mostly Marvel's anyway. And what Ryan said last week was really cool about the third most popular Wolverine sort of look is that naked Wolverine with
right? Am I right?
With his what's that
the helmet
3D Oculus Rift?
Yeah.
Wolverine and his Oculus Rift. Jumping.
But am I wrong?
No, you're
totally right?
The third hero click to come out of Wolverine was when he was naked holding that. I think that
he's in the snow. He's got the blood all over him. He's got all the wires and shit.
Yeah. There's an awesome hero clip where he's still in the containment tank, and it takes him 4 turns to bust out. It's awesome. Look.
I want to say when me and Paula did the Artist Alley table, our second print was naked Wolverine, actually.
Dude, I'm not surprised at all.
Let me see if I can dig it up. We'll give it away on this podcast. Let me see if I can dig them up.
And I can't believe I'm agreeing with Ryan so much on this podcast, but I have to say, it is so refreshing to see Wolverine when he could be knocked out and he could be taking it, well... That sounds worse than I mean for it to be, but taken advantage of by the enemy and just they
brainwashed and manipulated.
They knock him out and they drag him to their lair. That wouldn't happen nowadays. But back in the day, I think that the guy knocks him out in the beginning of the story. He knocks him.
You know this. If you go back to those early Claremont Byrne X-Men, he gets shot and gets fucked up. He gets shot once with a bullet.
Yeah.
He's not just an unstoppable killing machine.
So these are only a third of the comic worth of stories, or a quarter or a half or something like that. But in how they capture him is they punch him and knock him unconscious.
Right.
It's and that's how they capture him for the Weapon X program. It's what? Where are those days? I miss those days.
You didn't the animal,
the cattle
collar.
Not prod, but I know what you're talking about.
Wrangler,
after he kills all the wolves.
The leash.
I mean, it's so awesome to have Wolverine that's oh my god, this is what it used to be like when it was actually oh my god, I know he can survive, but will he survive? Whereas now it's 2 panels later, he goes from a cell of blood to a full-body X-Men.
Rereading the Days of Future Past a while ago, it's the same thing where he's I can't get shot by these Hellfire guards. He's oh crap, they got me.
Yeah,
and he's able to take him down. But there was a moment where he's uh-oh, I'm gonna get shot.
Right. Oh, dude. So anyway, great selection because I just didn't I always had it in the back of my mind, but I never remembered how good it was. And so it's so good, this book club. When you picked Infinity Gauntlet the other month, that's so good. I read it, but I read it so long ago that it's so refreshing to reread some old school stuff. So after Charlie goes, with that in mind, I will announce my book, which is not a good throwback, in spite of all my accolades towards
how many Omars?
But I loved what you guys said. I would give it at least 8. I would probably give it 8.5 Omars, because for all the reasons you guys mentioned last week and the reasons I mentioned today, it's just everything is so refreshing about it. I think that some of it, I think that it was actually you that said it, that it hasn't really aged as well as I would like it to. Mm-hmm. That's a personal opinion, but yeah,
the art stands up.
This is image art before image.
Yeah, the art stands up completely.
Well, it's literally Valiant art before Valiant.
There you go.
It's the story art, or it's the story that. But again, it was Windsor doing, kind of, this was his first kind of big-ish kind of thing, so.
It's so 90s. Look at this mullet on page 5 of issue.
You know what? I have this hidden theory that Hugh Jackman wants to keep playing Wolverine because he loves having that hairstyle.
That's a bigger mullet than Superman ever had. And Superman's had some killer mullets. Anyway, it was a great read. It was so refreshing. It was not long like that douche Bryce's picks, but it was a great read and great to see the origin. And I didn't know that Barry Windsor Smith got credited with creating adamantium or inventing adamantium. That was cool. Awesome. And now Charlie Hustle. So
I will actually pretty much concur and give it 8 Omars out of 10. I really enjoyed reading this. On a side note, it was also really nice to actually read something from my Wolverine Adamantium edition that I picked up. So
That thing is huge.
I like how everybody has their own way of reading. He grabbed this giant adamantium edition.
Yeah.
Bryce brings his bookbinding. You know,
I read the
Omar's bringing his individual issues.
I brought the paperback.
You brought the trade. I don't know how Ryan did it.
It's accessible.
Yeah.
It's like it is a good story because it is accessible. I mean, like we all read it in kind of our own way.
One of the things I really, really liked was actually pretty early in the book where they don't realize about his healing abilities at all. And they start sort of commenting like, and his hair's always already growing back. And like, they're kind of like cataloging all the strange phenomena around him as they're realizing that there's more to him than they thought. I really like little touches like that where they pretty much establish that one, this is not the Wolverine that you're used to at this point. This is pre those days. People don't necessarily consider him a huge badass or anything like that.
Well, they had
that
that X-ray shot of his hands where they were kind of showing that they were part of the claws were part of him.
The X-ray shots were awesome, and when the guy doesn't know what mutants are, it's like nobody doesn't know what mutants are nowadays. Like
there were just a lot of little touches, sort of establishing the time this was going on in, how little was actually known of this guy they abducted.
Yeah,
and I liked all those little touches. I liked the fact that
they punch him and knock him out. It's like what?
It's not even a punch; it's a joke.
It's a vok.
Vok. Looks like a J from this angle.
And a vump.
And I will say this just as a little dig against your binding versus my hardcover. The art looks much better in my hardcover.
Okay. I need to turn it down from 10 Charlies to about 7.5 Charlies. This is newsprint, and I'm jealous of yours. So,
all right. Bryce, what's your pick? We're getting ready to wrap up here. We're running a little long tonight. So.
Okay, so my pick is the first volume, although you can read more, of the Immortal. Is it the Immortal Iron Fist?
Did we check to see if this was in print?
It is in print. Okay. The Brubaker Fraction and Aja. Iron Fist. I thought for sure there's no way that they were going to do Iron Fist as well in the next 20 years, like they hadn't done him as well 20 years prior. And this recent one is actually not so bad, even though I've only read the first 3 issues.
So
it's okay.
Real quick, I'm assuming the single volumes are still available. I know they have like the complete collection now, which it breaks.
That's the one I think we're going to have to go with.
No, because that's huge. There's the entire run, Fraction and the other stuff are all broken into two. Basically, like a 20-issue trade or like an 18-issue trade or something like that. So the first arc, I can look up and see what it is, but it's a smaller arc. So look for that first trade, which should be the first 6 issues.
Okay, look. Yes, look for the first 6 issues, 12 issues, the whole collection.
You should. It's amazing.
It's really good, and so what you get out of it, just as sort of to try to whet your appetite, is you get basically all the elements of Frank Miller Daredevil that you liked, all the elements of Scott Snyder Batman you like, all of the. For those of us that are that have a little hipster mentality, which I'm ashamed, but no, I'm unapologetically so.
So hold on,
Fraction.
Hold on. You want Immortal Iron Fist Volume 1, the last Iron Fist story?
Yes, that's it. The hipster Matt Fraction that he's now doing in Hawkeye, but also the sort of occult noir of Brubaker. So think. What's that book that I was getting from Brubaker for forever, and then I stopped because it's just
Fatale.
On Fatale. I know that a lot of you guys like
the Fade Out's not bad.
I believe it. So anyway, if you like the occult noir side of Brubaker and the hipster side of Fraction, even if you only like half of each, that's perfect because this is half of each. And in addition, the art's really good. There's a lot of good noir Batman, Daredevil when Frank Miller was doing him stuff.
Can I go out on a limb here and say something? The Iron Fist by Matt Fraction and Ed Brubaker is as good, if not better, than Brubaker's run on Cap. Okay.
Oh snap! Look,
David Aja. I don't know. Hawkeye hasn't worked for me.
That's because it's only Fraction.
Because it's only Fraction in Aja,
and Brubaker's not even British. So
yeah, that's true. Iron Fist is
It's so
one of the best Marvel comics is put out in the last decade.
well.
Hands
It's
down.
just not true. But
It wasn't. It is. It is amazing.
It's not true because it's not an X-Men book.
look, for those of you following at home, I will be prepared to talk about and we'll be reading the whole run, even after Brubaker and Fraction
The
leave
Dwayne
the book. And there-
Swarinski stuff is actually really good too. After they leave,
I don't even know how to pronounce his name.
It
because
is-
there's too many syllables in a
Yeah,
row.
it's still really good. It's not the same, but it's still really good.
It's like it's been described to me as a slight step down, but barely even that. And then I'm going to read the annuals. There's like 3 one-shots or annuals. There's like a Green Mist something. or
5
other.
weapons.
Oh, and then there's a miniseries, a 5-issue miniseries of all the dudes that he's fighting in Kunlun.
Yep.
And those are done by a pre-famous Jason Aaron, a pre-famous Colin Bunn, a pre-famous some other gentleman that I forget because
I would say pre-famous, but they were
He worked
not
for DC.
quite
I
the
would
names
say,
they are now.
I would say pre-famous. I'd say that they're famous now, and they weren't famous then. I would say that they were known but not famous. Look, you should all read it. It's going to be a great read. It's when Aja was still doing monthly books. He was still able to get his art out at a good clip, which we all know these artists that are really good. All of a sudden, they can't do it because it takes too long. And look, I appreciate that. I'm sure it's incredibly hard. I can't even imagine having to draw such good art.
Here's a little pre-reading hype. The train sequence is one of the greatest sequences I think in modern comic book publication.
And that is not the one where they're running a train on. Oh,
No.
I'm sorry, did I cut out there? So,
did.
anyway,
You Omar'd there for a second.
So you should all read this. It's going to be a great read.
It is really good.
And even Higgins agrees with me. This has got to be
It is.
setting some kind of
This is-
record.
this- one of my favorite.
I'm actually really glad you picked this because I've wanted to read it. I just haven't gotten around to it, and I know that the trades went out. And I didn't know if they were going to come back in.
Yeah, we have them all. Yeah.
If you're buying
So-
them digitally, buy them through Ryan's store.
Should be able to. Yeah. I think we have some used copies
How
of the
many
trades.
are they're doing all of it in an Ultimate Collection form? Right?
Yeah, well, there's two, I believe 2 trades collects all the Ultimates. The Brubaker Fraction stuff, I believe, is 4 like smaller volumes.
Okay.
So, and
Or
Charlie
you can-
probably has the hardcovers.
Yeah, or you can collect them all
The
as single
omnibus.
Oh, the omnibus, which is out of print, if I'm not mistaken. All right, guys. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode. Very good pick.
Yes, I have
Bryce.
the omnibus.
Very good pick.
Very good prick.
Very good.
Is that what you just said to me?
Very good. Very
Freudian.
good pick. A really good shoe. Okay. So before we wrap up real quick, friend of the podcast, David, has been working on a website called comicbookprep.com. I've talked with him online a few times about this. He's been looking for a good way to kind of point people towards what books they should start with when they're trying to read comics if they're not a comic fan. He's got kind of like a beta website up right now, and he has very generously decided to link the volumes he has on his site as suggested reading to our digital storefront.
Oh, thank
so
you.
if you go through comicbookprep.com, you can go and those will go to our storefront if you want to purchase those. So that is really awesome of him. And I hope the site goes well. It's it's not perfect. He's gotten everything set up. So go on there, beta test it, go check it out. Send him any issues you have with the site. If things aren't loading properly, give him some suggestions. It seems pretty good when I was on there. There was maybe a little layout issue. I'm going to have to send him
Is
an
this
email.
like the actual website, not the.
It's up. Yeah, everything's up now. So it's pretty good.
I think I logged in, but I didn't get a chance to putz around because it was too early in the.
Yeah, he had some like real early beta stuff up, which I looked around a little bit, but it was hard to get into. It's kind of set up like a Wikipedia page in parts where you can add stuff to it. So the more people use it, the more the site's going to get up and running and more suggestions. Like I said, I had like one weird like little layout issue I know in Chrome, so I have to send him like a picture so we could see what's up. But something wasn't laying out properly on my end. But other than that, everything seems fine. So it's a cool little site, so go check that out. It's a comicbookprep.com. But other than that, I should pull up our thing so I don't forget all the crap I'm supposed to tell you, because I've now stopped remembering everything I'm supposed to tell you at the end of the episode.
Yeah, after 177 episodes.
Well, I write it down so I don't have to remember.
78 if you
So
count
I
the
can
lost first episode.
I can remember all this other stuff that is more important.
We have to go back.
But right now, previous episodes are on geekbox.net and comicsconspiracy.biz. So go on there. Go to forums at geekbox.net and the Geekbox Facebook group to discuss these episodes. Digital.comicsconspiracy.biz is where you can go to buy your digital comics from us. We also do mail order. If you send us your pull list, send us a list you're looking for, give us some trades you want, We'll get you those books.
And was it $25 or more?
We do free shipping on $25 or more. Yeah, for orders. So, Conspirator Brock is Brock's blog. Go check that out. Comics of the Kind is Omar's blog. The Infinite Longbox podcast and Wanderers in the Fourth Dimension podcast. Those are Charlie's other podcasts. You should go on there. I should also mention that I'm going to be on the most recent episode of Heroes and Villains, discussing Adam Strange.
Ooh, nice.
So that goes up this Wednesday. So go check that out. We talk about his funny helmet or his funny hoodie at one point. I do love me some Adam Strange. God, those covers are so nice.
I just finished reading the Countdown to Adventure.
Yeah, we talk about all that stuff
fun.
too. Yeah, it was good stuff. I'm Ryan Higgins, Ryan on Twitter. Brock is Brock Sager. Omar is Comics of the Kind. Bryce Larsen is Larsen Bryce. Bryce. Toby is nothing. Toby's Toby XI, but apparently they got taken over by
Toby
some
XI,
porn
the porn guy.
Porn thing, so hopefully he gets that back. So just go follow him anyway. We'll send you porn. Or you can talk to him about comics if he gets it back. Either way, I'm sure it's fine. And Charlie is Insanity and Chaos. The Geekbox Comedy Button, Good Job Brain, the All Talk Podcast, and a special announcement earlier today from the one and only David Lynch that the amazing show Twin Peaks will be returning to Showtime in 2016, which means probably you should go listen to the All Talk Watches Twin Peaks podcast, in which I am a special guest in the very last episode. We talk about Fire Walk with Me, and I'll probably have to discuss it with them, but I am very much wanting to be a special guest on their Twin Peaks All Talk Watches podcast in 2016 when the show returns to Showtime. I am more happy than anyone can ever imagine. Fuck comic books, it's all about Twin Peaks. It's the greatest thing of all time. So I love comic books too, but I have been... For years, I was like, man, they should make a Twin Peaks comic book. It would be, like, perfect. Like, it really would work because there's so many crazy stories they haven't told. But they're going to do another show, so that's the best news of all time.
Does he realize he says it's the greatest thing ever? Like,
it is.
Every other day?
Twin Peaks really is the
About
best.
some other thing?
But Twin Peaks really is the best thing
It's
ever.
like you saying, "What's up to Mitch?" It's like every episode.
What's up, Mitch?
Mitch? He
He asked a question.
what's his question?
We had a
What's
bunch
his
of questions.
question?
I already closed everything down.
Damn
Sorry,
it.
Mitch. We'll get your question. Oh, he asked about the Lock and Key. There was like a pilot that they made that didn't get picked up. He wanted to know if Lock and Key was any good. I've heard it is good. I've read the first
I
few
read
issues.
the first volume. I enjoyed it. I just haven't had to pick. I just haven't gotten around to picking.
I've read the first 2.5 volumes, and then my tablet died. So.
Yeah, I need to read that someday. So Joe Hill's book. So
Witches is out Wednesday.
yeah, it looks really good. Scott Snyder. So is Batman 35. All right, we're gonna stop this podcast.